All right, so today we will be bleeding the clutch on this 1989 Porsche 944 S2. I've had it driving really well, and then all of a sudden the clutch started getting spongy, and then immediately went to the floor and didn't want to come back. So we might have to replace a slave cylinder. We're going to get up under there and find out. The master is not leaking, so pretty sure the problem is not with the master. Or it could just be air in the system. So the goal is going to be get up in there. We're going to bleed it and see. And while I'm here, I'm probably going to go ahead and do the brakes too, just because I'm there and taking a video. Show you how to do it. So on this car, I'm going to do the quick man version. I'm not going to pull the wheels. I've done it in the past where I could just, with it up on the jack stands, I can get to the caliper, bleed nipples okay. And I think I'm going to try to not pull the starter. I've got a 7mm angled wrench that will help me bleed the clutch. So it's definitely easier if you do pull the starter, but like I said, I'm going to try to do this quickly and might change my mind. So once we get in this video, we may end up pulling the starter. This is the unit we're going to use to bleed these brakes. So we will fill this up with fluid and we will pressurize it. I usually, can't remember where I got. I think I only hit about 10 to 15 PSI, just enough to get the job done, and then I'll give it a little more juice as we're doing the clutch, just to push that air out. All right, step one, on the side of the car, you'll see this little indentation. That is the mark for our main jacking point. And so if you look underneath, you can see that mark right there, or that protrusion. That is what we're going to lift forward with. So we will jack up the side of the car, one side at a time. We will put our jack on. I don't know if I can see it. There's one right there. So our rear jack's going to go on that one, and then up towards the front, there's a couple options for where to safely put the jacks there. So once we get it up on its side, we'll place the jacks, and then we'll do each side. Here we go. All right, we're going up. A lot of guys will use a hockey puck to go between the jack and that point. I can't quite fit one with this jack. If I rolled it up on some boards, I could, but didn't want to do that today. If the clutch was working, my hood just closed, and that was terrified me. If the clutch was working, I would just back it up a little and then push it forward, but I don't want to push it by hand, so here we are. I'm going to get this up the rest of the way. And all right, so as we go, we're still going to go up a little bit further, but as soon as I can, I like to get the jacks just positioned underneath and ride up with the car. So I'm using the frame rail right there. A lot of people, there's a lot of controversy on using that puck right there. I mean, I've used it in the past and it's been fine, and I know several guys who have used them and never had an issue. I definitely don't jack from there, but as far as setting the stands on it, I have. But after reading a bunch of guys saying that will collapse or bend your floor plan, I've opted to go for this frame right here. Just as good. I mean, easy. To me, the stand fits a little bit better on it. Okay, so I've hit maximum height on this little jack that I have, which will be enough for this job. And I've got this one up to its height, and that one over there is up as high as it's going to go. As you can see, we got a long way left, but to do this job, I really don't need to break out the big one, and the big one's having issues right now. So make sure you have an assistant, a safety assistant,
and a manager.
and we have a manager and our safety assistant, and then you just have me, the dumb labor. All right, here we go. All right, we are in the air. So we've got the jack points on both sides. The front's a little lower than the back, but that's okay. My little jack stand just isn't made to go very high, but I got enough room to work. All right, so we've removed the reservoir cap, just kind of set it to the side here. Got a little rag because it's going to drip a little bit of brake fluid. All right, and we've got this is the little cup that goes inside there. Just went ahead and pulled that out as well. All right, so screwed this cap on. It's good and snug. I mean, I could go, you don't want to go over tight and mess up your threads on your cap or on the reservoir. I've got this one filled about a little over halfway. I don't know if you can see that line right there. I've got a bottle and a half of brake fluid there, in there, because I'm going to be doing this car and that 83 out there. Working on that in a different set of videos. It needs a full brake bleed, so I'll probably end up pouring the rest of that other bottle in there as we go. So I'm going to pump this up. We're going to get to probably close to 15 psi. I don't want to overdo it. And what we're going to do is go around to each corner and crack the bleeder nipple. And we will use this bottle, and I have a little clear hose somewhere that I will find that will connect and bleed out the old fluid into that bottle. New fluid will go into the system, and we'll show you how it's done. So let me pressurize it. All right, so we're at 15. Everything looks good. I don't see any leaks or anything coming out from the cap. We're gonna go around to each corner, and I'll show you how we bleed it. All right, so we're gonna start in the far back corner back here. So we'll do the back left, then we'll do the back right, then I'm gonna do the front right, and then last one is the tire closest to the reservoir over there. And then last, I always do the clutch last. I don't know if that's a rule you're supposed to do or not, but that's how I do it. Just like my last point. And maybe I'm just, you know, dreading it, and so I don't want to get to it too soon. I don't know, but I always do it last. So anyway, here we go. So for the back, an 11, I think it's called like a crow's foot maybe. I don't know, but this is a good wrench for the job. I'm gonna set this on it, like so. I've already cracked it, so I know it's good, it's open. I'm not sure if I can do this with one hand. Yeah, all right. Then I'll take this clear hose, force that on the top of the bleeder nipple right there. All right, now we've got the little clear hose on top. I'm gonna use the wrench to break it open, and it's gonna bleed down into the old bottle. So I'm gonna do, and really, like I said, the brakes, I don't really think need this. So I shouldn't see bubbles, but if I do see some bubbles, you know, well then it's good I did it. So if you do have air in your line, the goal is to push that air out. And so you'll see the bubbles coming up through here, and really you're looking for a good solid line that's not, let's just loosen it up here, see if we can't get it to start flowing. There we go. Yeah, so it's gonna bleed down into the bottle. There it goes, and like I said, don't really have any bubbles that I see. And that power bleeder is putting the pressure on so that all this is working. All right, and then once you're done, righty-tighty, tighten it up again, and we'll move on to the next. So no bubbles, which is good when I didn't think we needed it. But we're gonna hit each corner anyway, and then the clutch definitely does need it, so we're going to see some bubbles on the clutch. Here we go. Okay, and now we're on the back left driver's side. How about that? Up it goes. Again, no bubbles on this one. Open it up a little faster. Nada. And if you're, you know, I'd done this back in January on the brakes, so fluid's not really that dirty. But if your goal was to get all the old fluid out and just have new fluid, then you would do this until you saw the color change. So your old fluid would be darker, and then your new fluid that you're putting in, you would be able to tell, you know, when you got to the new fluid. So you could flush it out that way. All right, but no bubbles. We're gonna finish it out anyway, and then we'll move to the clutch. For the front, if your wheels are off the ground, which mine are, then you can turn the wheel. That's going to give you a little bit easier access to the top. Let me get my light in there for you. To this one up here. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put the hose on, we will crack it open, look for bubbles, and then we'll close it back up. So every now and then it's a good idea as you go just to come and check your levels. See, we're still above and beyond good here. I didn't really need much on this car, so probably used more than I should have. As you can see now, the reservoir is all the way full, so as this thing goes, it's filling that reservoir up with fluid, pressurizing it and pushing that through the car. So next, it's a good idea to just stop and check. So I've repressurized as I've gone. I show them that every time, but just trying to keep it at the pressure we want, especially as we go to the clutch, because this is the one I know has got a problem. All right, so got it pressured up. Thing I forgot to mention at the top, but first step I actually did was disconnect the battery. So especially as we're about to go to the clutch, we're going to need to work behind the starter. And if you end up pulling the starter because it's just easier, don't forget to undo your battery. Okay, here we are. So underneath the car, there's your oil pan, there's your starter solenoid, and right above it, right in there, is the clutch slave cylinder. Let's see if I can get that to focus for you. Yeah. Okay, there it is. Right there. So if you have a tiny little wrench, 7mm wrench, like I do, I'm going to stick it on there and show you. You don't have to pull the starter. It's easier, yes, but I think it's worth it just to try to work that little hose on and crack it open. So let me get this in place and I'll show you. Okay, let me see if I can do this. We're going to crack it open. Open. There we go, and that stuff is black. And look at all the bubbles. There's a lot of bubbles coming out. I don't know if you can see it, but my eye can see it. And we do have bubbles. A little bit more. So I'm gonna let the, oh, look at that. Yeah, I'm just gonna let this thing run for a minute. We got plenty of fluid, and that stuff is black. At this point, I'm kind of waiting for a color change, which I'm starting to see. Holy cow, look at that. Yes, this would cause a pedal to not work. Now you gotta also make sure that your hose is on good, because it could be your bubbles are just coming from your hose not being on good, but in this case, we had a ton of air in the system. And look there, okay, so we're just a little spurt. All right, suddenly we are bubble free, so I'm actually going to shut this off and we will repressurize. I'm going to do this one more time, see if we get more bubbles. All right, so here we go. Round 2. Opening it up good. Trying to, this is hard to multitask here. All right, we're gonna depressurize this thing now. Just gonna unscrew this cap slowly, and you'll see it start sucking bubbles back in. Never mind the noises. Yeah. Woo! All right, a little too fast. All right, there we go. All right, so it's sucking air back in, and we're down to 0. That's what you get for trying it with one hand. Okay, and it looks like I accidentally knocked the little glass piece off. Oops, I'll fix that. All right, so like I said, the reservoir is completely full. So I've got a little straw here, I've got a bigger one that is clean, and what we could do, if you got a turkey baster, just slowly suck it out, dump it in a jar. I like to use a long hose and just kind of suck it up to a certain point. Don't let it get in your mouth. It's not tasty. And then just kind of drop it in there. I think that works a little faster. And we can get it to the right level. Then we'll cap it off and call it done. All right, I'm back under here again because with it under pressure, I have a pedal. The pedal comes back, but as soon as I depressurize the system, I do not have a pedal. So what I've got now is my lovely assistant. It's just gonna push and hold the clutch pedal down. I'm gonna re-bleed it, see if we don't get more bubbles, and then I will tighten it back up again before she lets the pedal off. All right, here we go. All right, so right here, the boot's split in half, and if I rub my finger up in there, it comes back pretty wet. See that? There's a little bit right there. Looks like a little moisture right there too. And this carpet, can't tell if it's, doesn't feel wet, but kind of looks, I don't know, looks wet but doesn't really feel wet. I think that master's this clutch pedal's not, like, it's just not coming back that much. Well, after some thorough bleeding and some additional investigating, I think I am seeing a little bit of moisture on the master cylinder inside. So where the pedal is in the little boot, there's a little bit of fluid in there, and there shouldn't be. So I think my master cylinder is failing, and with it, I think the slave cylinder is also on the way out. So this was part of the process. Bleeding it, as I thought, did not bring it back because I was afraid something had gone bad. So it looks like we're gonna be replacing the master cylinder on the S2. Yay. And probably putting in a new slave as well. So at least I'll get another round with a video, and I'll show you guys that when it happens. Sometimes it be that way. In other news, I think I may have heard a mouse in my airbox, so I might have to look into that too.